I am representing the transition team. My name's Karen Miller, and we are here to have a conversation with Reverend Quillen, Tracy Quillen, who is a candidate for our senior minister position. So the way this will work is we don't want to be here too long because Reverend Quillen has an interview with the Board of Trustees in a little while. So we don't want to keep her too long, but we want to have a chance to have you ask questions of her and to get to know her a little bit better and to help us as a transition team get to know what it is that is important to our congregation as we look at our candidates. So, Reverend Quillen.
Yeah.
I thought, first of all, we should give you a chance to introduce your lovely guest that you brought with you today.
Thank you. So I don't get to see my daughter very often because she's chosen a life overseas. So I'd like you to welcome Jessica Tatt, my oldest, my firstborn, my baby. And we were teasing, she flew in from Oman, but she is recreating her life over and over as I honor everybody who does. And so we finally got her through an airport and we got her home. And she's hanging with me, and she may hang with me a little longer before her next move. So I'm grateful that she's with me.
So thank you. And so Reverend Quillen, how would you like us to address you?
So Reverend Quillen sounds really formal, so how about like Rev Tracy? That would
Reverend
be cool.
Tracy.
That'd be fine.
Okay, so if anybody from the audience would like to converse with Reverend Tracy, you can use that salutation. So I will start off our conversation today because one of the questions that I've been thinking about is when you were at Unity of Palm Harbor for 4 months. That's not real long, but it's not a few days either. It's in between. And so I was wondering if you could share with us what you noticed about Unity of Palm Harbor, because you've been to lots of churches this last year speaking and visiting, and you are used to a different church in Atlanta. So what's about us that you noticed?
So one thing, and I do share this when I speak at other churches, our Unity family is our family. It's an extension of wherever we may have been for a period of time, and it was shared earlier. I've almost been 30 years at Unity North Atlanta in Marietta, so I only knew for the first 20 years one way of unity, because it's all I'd been exposed to. And you heard earlier, Reverend Carol O'Connell was my very first minister, and she was my minister for 15 years, so that's all I knew about unity. And so now I have been speaking at churches with as few as 6 people. Unity North usually is about 300, so everything in between. And the moment I came in here, and remember this is about September last year, and it was, pretty much a full house, but there's this gentle family here, this close family here. And when I mentioned earlier in my talk, I really did say to Bob, what am I gonna do? I don't know anybody. He's like, what? Like that's the least of your concerns. Everybody who came to me would say, let's go have lunch, or let's go do this, or I love the little playhouse that's here. That's been inspiration for some of my talks. Here's Barbara, and the Dolly, oh my gosh. If this is home, that is gonna be one of my next homes too. So, because I love the arts, I love the theater, I love people who are innovative, who are creative, and all that is right here. And sometimes, honestly, to be in a much larger church, it's harder to get that intimate. There's always maybe a close circle, but it's just harder. And I really think I've had an experience from different avenues. It wasn't just the musicians, or it wasn't just this. It was like, and I had an experience with the prayer chaplains here. That was a fabulous weekend. We had a couple that came even from another church in, I think, Mississippi, who was here for that one, and they were hysterical. Was that right, Kevin? Were they Mississippi? They were hysterical. We had such a good time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And so one of our members has asked, how do you see Unity of Palm Harbor in 5 or 10 years if you were our senior minister?
So this is a really good question, because this was brought up during the 3 years of schooling. And they say, so when you look at a minister as a leader, and that is a true statement, we are all the leaders. Where do we see Unity of Palm Harbor? Where do I see it? I love that you have a children's program. I didn't even know there's unities that don't have a children's program. And that was kind of one of my prerequisites. I taught the Uniteens when my daughter was a Uniteen. I went on a YOU rally when I was here with this group. So I see that we're going to grow and we need to bring our families in here. And how do we do that? And that's a we job. That's not a Tracy job. I'm going to be the speaker, the counselor, the pastoral care. How do we as a community envision our next steps? Because I'm here as much to support you as you are to support me.
So another of our members asked, why are you choosing to be a candidate here at Unity of Palm Harbor?
Okay, that one's kind of easy because I had my 4 months here and I know some of y'all. And it's an interesting time to be where we are now in the world. And I'll be honest, I had talked to another church in Florida back in February, and I talked to some people up in Arizona, and the world changed. And I feel there's been a connection here. And people have been very open. And I tell you what, some people have been going, when are you coming? When are you coming? So what did I say? Rumi says that which you are seeking is already seeking you. So why make this so difficult?
Thank you very much. So I have cards here, but some of you have written on them. So why don't you ask your question? Raise your hand and ask. Terrell?
I didn't have one, but I thought of one.
Yes.
We love Reverend Bob, and he is a fantastic human and speaker and minister, but he's not a sharp businessman. You do have
I wouldn't say that.
Well,
What he wants to say is,
let me get to my point. You have a background in finance and stuff.
I do.
that's it.
How could that be useful for helping us stay on the ball?
So Terrell asked a question about how would Reverend Tracy deal with our Unity of Palm Harbor finances?
So interesting, when I was introduced earlier, so I was 27 years in banking, and the 27 years was in the real estate side of banking. So I'm very familiar with properties and builders and developers, and how do we read a balance sheet, how do we read an income statement, nonprofit's a little bit different than for-profit, and at the same time, okay, that's like innate now. So when we would have business meetings, I don't want anything to be a secret. When our home church had to do a big capital campaign, we splashed the financials up there for everybody to see, because the truth is a lot of people don't know what it takes to run a church. This isn't just a shake a hand and feel good place. It is that, and it is a business. So I think I can bring, good or bad to the table. I can bring that business sense to the table. And I'd like to be very transparent so you're aware of what it takes. And what we learned in our church is we needed to set some monies aside for when you do have the maintenance and you don't have to go to people in an emergency. So some things that I learned there I hope I can bring to the table here.
And certainly in this time, we have learned a quick lesson about how up and down things can be and how quick things can turn.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So another question from our audience. Sir,
Hi, well, welcome.
Thank you.
Tracy, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
introduce yourself too.
I'm Tony.
Hi, Tony.
I was so glad you're here.
Thank you.
I love your enthusiasm. Just love it. You're so refreshing. I love it.
Thank you.
And what I'd like to know is what are your thoughts about, I love the wisdom of what we have here, and I love, age is, I have a lot of close people in my life that are older, and I do appreciate the wisdom that brings, but what I was wondering was, how are we going to bring some new blood into the congregation? What is your ideas about diversity? To bring something different, I think that even though we have a beautiful thing here, I think that there needs to be a couple more plants thrown in. We got a lot out there, but some other things thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
And I love Reverend Bob's ability he's a great orator, wonderful blessing orator, but the personal, do you have, the more pastoral, personal, what is your thoughts on that as far as one-on-one pastoring?
So a couple of things, just kind
Let
of,
me
go
just-
ahead.
I'm going to repeat the question
Okay.
for our at-home audience. So Tony has asked about how Reverend Tracy would plan on growing our church in numbers and in diversity of various kinds, and just having a different way of presenting our sanctuary and other kinds of things as well. So
So that became a very broad
big
question.
Yeah, that's all right.
So let's take little pieces. First of all, Tony, if you're open to do that, you will be cutting my hair when I come. So just doing that one. And second of all, so, again, it's not just the minister's job to do a church and to grow a church, because it takes everybody. And even in the workplace, we know that each one of us in here is a PR director. When you're telling your friends, so other things I would like to do, and I don't know if it's been done here before, is to get to know other Unity and New Thought ministers. What are they also doing? Because I recognize that there are different parts of town that maybe we could invite people in here. We do a switch out, we attend different services. How do we get our youth growing that kind of a way? How do we get the more diversified piece in that? I would like to open that door. Is there something in the community I can join as a representative of the church? Is there something board members are interested in? Is there something people in the community are willing to do? What else can we do to bring more community together? And it doesn't necessarily mean they have to join as a member. Even at Unity North, where I am, we have a lot of people who support that church who don't want to be a member. They don't want the sign, they don't want to do that part, so they don't really care about the vote even. They just want to be part of a loving, generous community. And back to the pastoral part, so I really like that. I really enjoy one-on-one. I really enjoy teaching. I've already had the visions like, I love this room. Like, let's have circles in here. Let's have teaching in here. What does that look like? When I first said I wanted a master's in divinity, I went to my minister and I said, just think I'm going to teach. He went, that's great. And then I got in the program, I'm like, oh no, this is hard. I'm going to do all of it. If I'm going to spend 3 years of my life and change my entire world, I'm going to do all of it. So, and I mean that in giving and service, but of course one person can't do everything. That's what our family does to support each other. So, but again, and I love the arts, so we'll see what we can do.
Thank you very much. Another question from our audience? Jim.
I'm Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Tracy. You talked a little bit about some of the things that you're doing, and my question is, we do feast, we talked about that this morning, but the other side of that is, what's a cause? What can we unite around as our Unity family? We talk about pray, but we're not coming to understand that social action is prayer in action, prayer actualized. So my question to you is, which is a particular area? We could have spiritual health, we could have emotional health, we could talk about hunger with the food program. What's a cause that is aligned with who you've come to understand we are?
So Jim's question was, what should be our mission in social action? We have a lot of choices, and he was asking Reverend Tracy what her thoughts are about how we could have a different or new or expanded cause here at Unity Palm Harbor.
Yeah, so I appreciate when Karen and I had discussion early, she said, what do you think that first year looks like for me, coming in as a senior minister? And a lot of it is listening to you. What is your hope of glory? What is your dream? What is important to you? I'm here to also facilitate you. Now, personal things that I align with are children, very much so. You guys are right next to a school. Is there any relationship? I don't know. The parking lot? Right, I did see that when I was here too.
I'm not sure that's
right.
it.
Right, but is there any alignment with, I don't know, could some of the kids who are in drama over there do some things on our stage, help out with cameras? Maybe they get extra hours for it. I mean, I don't know what's available to do, so it's going to be a time of exploration, and I'm really going to be looking to you to fill me in the gaps that I don't know about, because it has been your home probably more than a year. It was my home for 4 months. So I got to know some of you, but what is important to you and your cause, it's not the minister's church, it's our church. So I will put that back on you to help me find the right places for all of us to support.
Thank you. Another question from our audience? You wrote them on these pieces of paper. Mary Ellen.
Thank you. I'm Mary Ellen. Nice to meet you again. And again, everybody, she got that shirt at Steinhardt when she was here last month.
Is that where you ran into each other?
Quick, before they go to business.
My question, Tracy, is that how do you envision your interaction with us during this first year to get to know us, to
So if I may summarize, Mary Ellen Shotto has asked Tracy, Reverend Tracy, how she would envision getting to know the congregation in its first year, and if she was selected as our senior minister. And this has been really an important question for the transition team because of our pandemic and our being spread out and not all together like we are used to being. And I think this presents a unique challenge for any new senior minister that's not been faced by Reverend Bob, certainly, is how to reach out in all kinds of ways to get to know people individually during your first year in this unique situation.
Yeah, so if the world was turning absolutely the way it was 12 months ago, it would have been easy to have maybe big gatherings or small food potlucks or going to restaurants or going to people's homes. I was invited when I was here before to some people's homes to spend time with them, and that would be beautiful. And in the interview process, I think that Kim was a part of the other day, I thought some of the elderly people that I got to know here that I know I don't see here right now, can I go to their house? Can I stand outside their door? Can we talk? Can we get to know each other? That sounds like a small thing, but it's really not. I would like that kind of community. And maybe it's going to be that I'm going to have office hours and you guys sign up for a time that you're comfortable to come see me. If you're not comfortable to come see me, do you want to talk on the phone? Do you want to do the whole online stuff? This is where the world is going right now. It's also an opportunity to expand outside these walls. But to meet individually, I would love one-on-one time or small group time. And remember, I want to teach. So hopefully you're going to want to go, yeah, I want to take her class. And I would like that to be some in-person classes. And for those who are not comfortable, I'm happy to do some online. Something different in this community from where I came from. We do a lot of things in the evening hours because most of the people work during the day. And I recognized here, and because of the audience age and differentials, they like to do things during the day. Well, hello, if I'm coming here full time, I'm here. So let's do some of that. So there could be one-on-one, but I'd really like to do some classes. And we share deep doing the Conscious Living Circle.
So I think related to that was a question in this pile of cards about your familiarity with social media and your willingness to use social media in ways that we haven't before, and what experience do you have with that, or what would be your plan?
So the best thing, don't ask my daughter.
Yes, Jessica, you're quiet.
Yeah, that's right. You can tell all your tales on mommy. So obviously, I'm on Facebook, in case y'all haven't looked it up. As one of my exercises, I created a Quillen Ministries webpage. You can look that up. So I can do basics. I'm not a programmer. A matter of fact, I have someone who wanted to brand and do some marketing with me, and she's kind of taken over that piece, and I'm grateful. I'm open to learn it. However, I'm not the programmer. I'll just be honest. I'm of a generation, I still use paper. But I can do the Zoom. I learned to do that. We did Blackboard, was what UWSI did. All of those are very similar. You just have to figure it out. And there is some fun. You guys, we graduated on Zoom. I mean, how crazy was that? Our composite picture is going to be a Zoom page, the first one in Unity's history. So we learn how to adapt. We learned how to adjust. But, like I said, if you want me to write programs and direct all that, that's a little bit beyond me. I know there's other very talented people here who can do that.
Well, and we appreciate that very much, and we have a wonderful newsletter that people have been reading pretty faithfully, and Reverend Marilyn, thank you for that, and we have our Facebook page, and so we do have beginnings of that.
Yeah.
But some of our members know that we are, if we're to reach out to the millennials and Gen Z people and people who don't think twice about all of that, that we'll have to step it up a notch. And you're right, we have some wonderful people.
Maybe we invite a millennial to do that.
Oh my. That would
Just, because this is their thing. This is their thing.
That is their thing. Ma'am.
I'm Denise. I have a question. I noticed, as you touched on a moment ago, that this group of parishioners here has a tendency to have all their get-togethers during the daytime, or if you want to drop something off, you can do it from so to so during working hours. So if we're going to attract younger people or people in the 40, 50, year range, or 30s, or whatever, you got to have something in the evening.
Amen.
So the only thing we're doing right now is we, have our fall series, which is great. We've had the pandemic, so people aren't really getting together, especially the older congregations, which that's cool, no problem. But, you know, what do we do when we want to get together in the evenings and there's no offerings? One thing that we did have, which I participated in for a full year, and it was hit and miss on how many would show up, but I thought it was great, was a yoga class for, you know, an hour. And they did start offering that again, but it's only during the daytime. So do you have any expectations on offering evening classes, groups, whatever?
So for those of you at home, Denise is asking about how Reverend Tracy might go about expanding our offerings to more hours of the day and more kinds of offerings at different times of the day, targeting different groups of people, including working people.
So that has been a question that we've discussed before in different arenas. So I don't need to be exclusive daytime. That was just for me an observation because it's not where I came from. So I like that. So I can do some daytime. Doesn't mean I can't do some nighttime. When I was here before, they did a beautiful music series. Was that every first something of the month?
Friday, yes.
Right, and of course we're being careful because of COVID, but we had different musicians and we brought people in from other parts of the community to enjoy that. That was wonderful. I was wondering if we were going to tap into a younger audience, is there something they would like the gentleman I spoke about, Brandon Leake, who did the Power of Word and got up here. I mean, can we do like a speakeasy when we get to that point? Whether it's going to be something with music or is it poetry? Because people, when I was here, there are some very creative writers. And it doesn't have to be just this congregation. If you reach out into the community, would they like a platform to perform? And there'd probably have to be some guidelines around that. Not bringing your food and drink in here, that sort of thing. But how could we open that up? And I think that's a brilliant brainstorming for the people of the idea in the congregation. You're sitting with me for 30 minutes. You're like, Tracy, I'm passionate about this. Put it on your list. Let's see what that can look like. I am very open. Teach in the morning, teach at night. Probably not the same day. I don't know what that feels like yet. But I mean, I want offerings in both times. So when I mentioned that earlier, specifically here, I saw daytime things that are not necessarily at my church. So I think it's what do we want to do? What do we want to do? But I'd like to see some youth come in here and some vibrancy doing this.
Thank you very much. There were several people who asked from home and in person today about how Reverend Tracy feels about traditional approaches to services with traditional hymns and the Lord's Prayer and other more traditional Christian approaches, and how she might think about augmenting the kind of services that we have now, and what's your experience or thoughts about that?
So, okay, that's interesting because I really come from maybe a less traditional form of unity, and I didn't even know there was differences. But when I was in school, there's definitely more Fillmorian, and then there's more of a oneness language, and it's not necessarily the same language. And Unity has been experiencing this and trying to decide where things lie. But the mothership for us is guidelines, because every church is individual and independent. What we do up here is not as conservative as a couple that I've been to. So something like, let's use the Lord's Prayer. There is a beautiful Aramaic interpretation of the Lord's Prayer, and I would love to get up here and do something with that. I personally sometimes get into the old hymns. I walk in the garden. Oh my gosh, look at your garden. But it doesn't mean that we're going to probably go all that way back in just that, because I also love Daniel Nahmod. I love all this new stuff. Terrell likes to write music. I mean, you have a gift right there. Joy left, I think, but the things that she does and turns it into hers. I love that. So, and I have friends that do the sacred bowls and want to do workshops, and I have friends that do the influential women of the Bible and today. So that's really kind of a cool intermix of different things. Are we going to sit here and not that I don't love an organ. There were some people here last year. It was around a very patriotic holiday. Where was I here? Memorial Day. No, it wasn't it. Veterans Day. Who said Veterans Day? That's it. And we went to the Presbyterian church downtown with the big organ. That was fabulous. But that's a once in a while thing. That's not really who we are or what I've witnessed us to be. So I don't see that I'm coming in to make big, huge changes. I will share from my home church, we have never in 30 years done the daily word. So when I sit at a Unity in the daily word, I'm like, whoa, what, That's more common than not, but we are going to make some of these decisions.
Is there such a thing as I miss communion. Is there such a thing as a new age, new thought?
Yes.
Communion?
Do you want to?
I miss that, I really do.
So Tony has said that among others, other people also have expressed the notion that they miss the traditional communion services of their childhood churches, let's put it that way. And Unity, I know, I have participated in Unity churches that have a communion service. So Reverend Tracy, what's
So
your
my
thought?
experience, it's more around Thanksgiving towards Christmas. It's a special, and so we don't say necessarily the blood of Christ like some of us may have grown up in traditional. Instead, it's more about releasing what we no longer want, but I've physically been there, and it would have to look different because of COVID, obviously. You're not going to drink out of the same chalice or eat out of the same bread bowl, but there are ways to do that. And it is beautiful. Just like I love when we're christening a child. The minister I'm serving with today, he chooses to do it at personal homes. I love to do it in front of everybody. Like, it just brings us back together. So some of that kind of stuff maybe I'm going to institute or I'll bring forward, but I'd love to hear your ideas. One in Orlando does the 12 powers of faith, and it's all with lighting candles and honoring Taoism and Buddhism. I would so love to see that done here. It would be phenomenally beautiful. So there's ideas turning that people have exposed me to, and you may have things that you want to bring forward, and let's see what that feels like.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Reverend Tracy, another question had to do with the Unity Worldwide Ministries philosophy and new thought about whether or not a particular church or ministry should be minister-driven or mission-driven. And I know you know about that. It could teach us a little bit. So what would you say about that to us?
So I think it's a little bit of a misnomer. When we create a vision statement or we create a church mission, the idea is everything that you do in the church goes back to that mission statement. And to remember, everything you do goes back to that. That's a little all-encompassing, because if you read your mission statement, I read the vision statement too, it may not work for in all cases. But the idea is, you love me as a minister, as a leader, and my time is done, and when I leave, that it doesn't disrupt the church, that the church doesn't fall apart, because the people are in their mission, and I'm a servant of that mission. That's what that whole idea, it was Gary Simmons, I think, who's really been kind of pushing that. And then the truth of the matter is, people are attracted to personalities, right? There's a lot of people here that I really felt during my time, Bob's beloved. I mean, he's beloved to a lot of people.
It's his ties.
It is, but it was his ties. At least you didn't say his socks.
The ties he wears.
I thought you meant connections. I'm like, yeah. But I mean, that's what I told Bob. I said, I feel people love you, and I know he's been here a long time. And at the same time, when there's time for a shift, that's an adjustment. Some people in here are going to love me, and some people in here are going to go, where did she come from? That's a whole ball of energy that I'm not ready to take on yet. And I get it. And my minister said, Tracy, you got a lot of power going on. Some people don't like that, and they're not going to resonate, and they're going to leave, and not to get hurt feelings from it. So there is a truth to your leaders, right, that you resonate with them, and you get closer to them, and you commit with them. And there's a truth to what is our unity home? What is our spiritual home? So I think it's going to be a mixture. I don't think it's an either or. I think it's an and on the spectrum. And I hope to draw in people that, Bob talked to me about it, that some people over the years he felt has gone away, and maybe because I have been a businesswoman, maybe they'll come back. And there's going to be new people coming, and there may be some people who fall by the wayside. That's just a vibration.
So, Reverend Tracy, you talk a lot about your energy, and we can see it and we can feel it. So in that spirit, the transition team was asking itself, so with Tracy's energy, will she be able to stay with us for a number of years? And so I'd like to know what your personal career goals are and how Unity of Palm Harbor might fit into that. Because we are used to 25 years of commitment from a single person. Great
You guys,
guys, great jokes, Bob, great everything.
So let's get real.
Yes.
That's really sacred and special and unusual. Okay? So there's not really truly today in so many Unity ministries do you get the gift of someone for a very long time. And it works both ways. You know, I know opportunities come and you have ideas if you want to stay or go. I don't want to like come in and the first year is going to be taking to get to know you guys. That's like any job. And then maybe by the second year, I become a little proficient. Maybe by the third year, I got a rhythm going on. But you know, it takes both sides of it. So I can tell you, Temple Plaza is not calling my name down there, because that would be very interesting. That would be a whole dynamic shift too, because I'll say they're a little more conservative. You know, I'm not being called by Chicago, and what I think the Unity movement is trying to do is just let's secure up our churches and then let's expand from our families. So y'all, I have been at my church 30 years. So I have changed jobs a number of times, but I've been at the church for 30 years. Now, am I promising you 30 years? No. I'm promising you give you everything I've got while I'm here. And that is a two-way street. Just honestly, that's a two-way street. Who thought COVID would come? Who thought 9/11 would come? Stuff happens. So let's just hold it to the highest good this time, to the highest good.
Thank you so much for that.
You're
candor.
welcome.
Any other questions? We're getting toward the end of our time. Michael?
This may be inappropriate, but
No.
are you married?
You can ask that question. Do you want to ask?
If you were, your husband would be involved in right.
So Michael has asked for everybody at home more personal information about Tracy. So Reverend Tracy, what do you want to tell us about your personal life?
So I appreciate that question. Once upon a time, in the first house where I raised the children, one of my kids came to me and said, well, if you got married, we could have a bigger house. I said, well, how about if I build out a room downstairs for your playroom? Does that count? So I am a solo woman, a woman of power, someone might say. So I don't have a partner coming with me. I do have my oldest daughter that y'all have met, and I have a son, and he's turning 29 at the end of the month. He's got a good job in Atlanta. I don't see him moving or leaving. I would love for him to come visit. I think Jessica will be for a period of time, and then she'll go and do what she wants to do next. So y'all got me.
Well, and stuff happens. Reverend Tracy,
yes.
you never know who
You
might be hanging here in Palm Harbor for you.
Yeah, but he's going to have to be really good with me. This is something I've wanted to do for a really long time. Just to really be clear, when she was in the preteen group, I wanted to be the youth and family minister. And things didn't quite shift in that direction, so I stuck it out for another 15, 20 years in the business world. So this is what I want to do. So if someone were to come in my arena, then they're probably doing their thing too, and it's a combination. Because I'm pretty solid with who I am.
Great. Reverend Marilyn.
Yes, what is your involvement with the administrative side of the church?
So Reverend Marilyn has asked about Reverend Tracy's experience with the administrative side of running a church.
So do you want to define that a little further? Like you're talking about the newsletter? Are you talking about the finances?
The organizational structure.
Administrative task of running a church.
Okay, so we'll just put it out there. So I've managed teams in business. I have not run a church. I have sat on the board, make all those fun decisions and not fun decisions. I've organized and written the curriculum for our uniteens, worked in a number of capacities in the volunteer areas. But and especially on the board, I wasn't allowed to come in every day. We were very specific. The board is an oversight. They're not in the day-to-day operations, and it's different when you don't have a minister. And it depends on also how the church is run. I talked to some group in Tennessee, and the board pretty much runs their church. But have I sat down and answered the phones every day? No. Have I got on the computer and set up the finance package? No. You have capable people that are doing that now, and maybe there's room for some expansion on that. I have organized offices in 3 different capacities in the banking industry from the day they opened. You know, from whatever programs we were going to use to whatever phone systems we were going to use. I have done that kind of capacity work. That's been a number of years, but ideas are still there.
And to that, I wanted to just ask Virginia Isaacs, I'm putting you on the spot, Virginia, but Tracy has had experience as a prayer chaplain. Do you have any questions of her? The prayer chaplaincy here at Unity of Palm Harbor is very active and meaningful to us. And so I was wondering if you had any particular question.
Well, I don't have any particular question about how you would handle it. I do hope that you would sit in on some of our meetings and be an advisor in capacity to help us, especially through this coronavirus business. We've had to do all of our calls on our personal phones because we haven't had access, to the facilities. But I'm just so grateful to have had you come for the meetings that we have had, and I hope you would continue to do that with us.
So Virginia has asked about Reverend Tracy's willingness to be part of not only our prayer chaplaincy structure and our committee, but all of our committees. And what's your view on participation as a senior minister in those groups? And by the way, our board of trustee bylaws allows for that. It's more of a decision, and in our church, as I understand it, there's been a sort of a division of labor, and so with a new senior minister, that would be, I assume, renegotiated. So
something I loved, and Virginia knows this, and Marilyn knows this, and Rob knows this. Part of what I asked during my internship is I could go through their training that they do, and you do it annually, don't you? Yeah, the prayer chaplain training. So I had been through my church and served in my church as a prayer chaplain, and then I came here, and it was fabulous. I mean, it was really good. So I would like to be maybe advisory or sitting in, something like that. Wellness calls, probably not, because I think my role is pastoral care. When people want to come in and visit with me, I think that would be a different, but let you hold the space in prayer. And it's like really important to me that this is a foundation of the church. This is what Unity started on, is prayer, and I believe in that. I've talked to some different people who'd love to go to the village at some point in time. They do a silent retreat. They if you could ever spend time up there and see what they do with our prayers when we send them to them, it's very like more than holy sanctuary. It's like really held close to the heart. So that's a big thing to me, to be involved in that. So I would very honor that if I were allowed to be a part of that. And you're right, I do see our bylaws do it too, that the minister basically is, it's not an advisor, but they're a piece of all of it and can come pretty much at will. But I would like to be, because I need to be prayed up too. Yeah.
Held in.
Takes a lot to take this energy going. Yeah.
So, are there any other burning questions?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
So, Jessica?
I will ask, which core Unity principles, since you began your journey with this church, have guided and grounded you throughout your life?
So Reverend Tracy's daughter, Jessica, has asked, what Unity principle has most guided her mom during this journey?
That is so good. Such a unitine question, right? So what I love most for me, that serves me in unity, is our thoughts and mind produce after their kind. That means I have the power to create whatever I want in my life. And as Jessica, some changes took place at our church, and she left our church, and then she graduated from college, and she said, I want an experience in the world very different than anything I've ever been a part of. And I watched her go through the creative process. She thought it, she set her intention. I've listened to her interview, everything's online because it's different countries. And I thought, you're doing the same thing. Thoughts in mind create after their kind. And it's like my favorite principle. It's the creative process. It's what we usually call the third one. And I've witnessed her do it over and over again. And people who come into my life and come close to me, they'll call and go, I was just thinking this, that, and the other, and it came to pass. I'm like, of course it did, So for me, it is my guiding principle.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Kimmin?
I find that in my prayer life, I've had to do a lot of work recently on any anxiety I have coming out of the pandemic into whatever comes next. And in terms of our church. And so I guess my question for you is, things are going to change. We don't know how they're going to be different, but so it's not a real fair question. But how would you? What would be some of your ideas about moving the church past the pandemic and to something else? That's not a very cogent question, but.
Well, I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
Kimmin has asked, on behalf of all of us, what is Reverend Tracy's ideas, or what are her goals for helping our church, where she may be selected to be senior minister, move past this very unique and challenging time in our lives with the pandemic?
Yeah, this is something we actually talked about in school for the 3 years as well. So today I will call us a hybrid, right? So we have whoever's comfortable coming in under certain restrictions and protocol, and then we have online. Now, I know this was YouTube before, and I think there's some beautiful editing that might have gone on. And now a lot of ministers are being pushed to be live. So you make a mistake on stage. We're so human, it's so vulnerable, it actually touches people's hearts. So it expands us outside of our church doors, outside of our communities, into other states. And even Reverend Bob and I talked about that. My home minister and I talk about that people get tuned in from all over, including outside the country. I think that's an incredible opportunity. So if for some reason people started following Palm Harbor and they said, well, I really like that the music team does this. Maybe the music team wants a workshop. Maybe they want a Friday night, whatever that's going to look like. Maybe it's, maybe we're even going to bring how to train the chaplains online. What does it do? I know that, if there's some sacred kind of things that may taboo that, but what if people were following us not just Sunday morning? What if they want to go to the classes? What if they want to tune into some different things that we're doing? What if our practices come to us online? I think it's going to be really important that we're open, that we're not just a physical in the structure church, because that was never the church anyways. Yeah.
It seems like your message this morning also was about that in a way. It's like there will be something going forward, but in the meantime, it is really helpful to control anxiety and concern and worry by figuring out what you yourself can do to heal others and yourself. So,
well, that whole part where I mentioned my doctor and she went, there's this new technique, breathe. And it is a reset. It's when you're freaked out a little, and I do it, I'm human too. And it's like, okay, check in. It's okay. And if you forget, call your buddies. Support each other.
Well, thank you so much. Our time is at the end. We will be certainly able to take other questions from people online and people here throughout this week, and we will get responses from Reverend Tracy as you need to. But I would really appreciate if we all could stand and show our deep gratitude and appreciation to Reverend Tracy for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You remember with our Uniteens, we love you, really, mwah!
Well, Reverend Tracy has her afternoon plan with the Board of Trustees, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.